What is going on, everybody? With an exciting week 3 of action in the books, welcome in to the week 4 NFL Power Rankings show. Recording this one at about 2 in the morning after watching Jayden Daniels light it up. Had to break out the Commanders shirt for that one. Excited to talk about them and all these other teams here today. Before we do get started, if you could please take a second to hit that like button. It really does help me out. It takes just a second. Also, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my weekly Power Rankings shows. I'm also going to be starting up positional tier maker rankings here this week, so a lot to look for here on this channel. And a reminder that these power rankings are more of the Cliff Notes reactions to what we saw last weekend. I do have my weekly recap episodes of the Fully Inflated Football podcast. If you enjoy my content, you want a little bit more, you can check out my podcast on the Fully Inflated YouTube channel or just search Fully Inflated Football Podcast wherever you get your audio shows. All right, let's go ahead and get started. A new team at the bottom of the rankings here this week. The Miami Dolphins. I tanked them last week out of fear that without Tua Tagovailoa out there, this team would go back to what we've seen in all of the other games when Tua hasn't been available for them and be anemic offensively. And that's exactly what happened. They got just steamrolled by the Seattle Seahawks. And it is a reminder for all of the crap that we give Tua about having this amazing surrounding cast, relying on the system to be so productive. While some of that stuff might be true, it is also true that Tua is this system. His ability to throw with anticipation and get that ball out so quickly, it helps them survive without a good offensive line. Very few quarterbacks in the NFL can do what Tua does for this team. Certainly not Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle. Maybe Tyler Huntley can somehow come in and pick this thing up. We'll see. And we don't really know when Tua's coming back here, right? So until we get Tua back, as is the process in these rankings, heading into week 4, I do think the Miami Dolphins are the worst team in football. And then staying in the AFC East with the New England Patriots at number 31. They did start the season on an impressive note, although maybe beating the Bengals wasn't quite as impressive as we originally thought. But yeah, just some of this isn't their fault. Injuries are really piling up for New England, but also like a lot of the things we feared about this team heading in really starting to surface. The offensive line woes, just brutal. Jacoby is Jacoby, but he also doesn't have any time to throw. There's a lack of playmakers here. It is definitely not looking good in New England right now. And then at number 30, how about those Carolina Panthers, man? Going into Las Vegas, putting a smackdown on Andy Dalton out here with the performance of the week until Jayden Daniels took the field Monday night. Well, and Josh Allen. But before Monday happened, it was Andy Dalton's week, baby. And you started to see kind of all of those moves that the Panthers made this offseason kind of came to the forefront here. The pass protection was pretty good. Deontay Johnson running wild on the Raiders secondary. Chuba Hubbard running behind that offensive line, playing really well. And Dave Canales, look at him kind of getting the team fired up, dialing up some nice plays too. So this was kind of why I felt it was right to go to Andy Dalton. Number one, it just restores some hope in that organization, make them feel like a real football team again. While Bryce Young really has struggled here, there has been this weight over the organization. And for Andy Dalton to come in and stabilize this thing, whether you at some point go back to Bryce Young or not, is just, it means everything to the people involved in that Panthers organization and the players and how good this team can be on Sundays. And maybe, just maybe, at least from a narrative perspective, this is one of the games of the week, man. The Panthers hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Andy Dalton, a chance to beat his former team, an 0-3 football team, desperate for a win. Panthers trying to see how legit this could be. Could be fun. My wife in her Andy Dalton jersey and myself will be there, so come say hi if you see me here in Charlotte. But at number 29, the Tennessee Titans staying put here. Kind of same old, you know, Will Levis. There's some good stuff in there. There's some throws. There's some good process stuff. And then there's the boneheaded mistakes, throwing a back-breaking pick 6 early in this game. Just late to the flat, Jair Alexander just sitting on it. What do you think's going to happen there? So he's trying to figure himself out. The Titans are trying to figure themselves out. This has not been the start, though, that a lot of Titans fans were hoping to see for a roster that does have some pieces on it. Then at number 28, the New York Giants, not just entertaining this week, but winning against the Cleveland Browns, actually moving the ball against a very good Browns defense. Malik Neighbors getting entirely unlocked here by Brian Daboll. That dude is just an absolute monster. But the Giants defense showing up this week too as well. That D-line definitely started to feel like what was promised. Going to get Brian Burns, who had a big game. Shout out SMU undrafted rookie Elijah Chapman, and of course Dexter Lawrence. Just a monster game from Sexy Dexy. So Giants heading in the right direction. Definitely good to see that for them. Then the Las Vegas Raiders heading in the wrong direction after storming back to beating the Baltimore Ravens. Definitely feels much more like that was an anomaly on what has otherwise been a pretty disastrous season. You've got Antonio Pierce calling players out already week 3. I'm kind of back to like being way out on the Raiders after they had that fun comeback against Baltimore. I do think they definitely belong in the bottom tier. And then at number 26, the Denver Broncos going +4 this week, getting their first win on the season. A very impressive start to finish win against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I will give Bo Nix his credit, but honestly, it was that Broncos defense that really stood out to me. The D-line playing really well, and the members of this secondary, Pat Surtain locking down Mike Evans, Riley Moss, slot corner Jaquan McMillan, all pretty good games, in my opinion. But of course, Bo Nix settling in. I thought week 2 was better than week 1, and week 3 better than week 2. Still some stuff that he got away with in this game, but much more clean, much more like the Bo Nix that I thought we would see as that kind of high floor rookie that played 60 games in college, had some savvy veteran plays in this game too. So definitely encouraged to see Bo Nix kind of settling in, not panicking against a tough Todd Bowles defense. So Denver kind of putting themselves on the map here this week. And that is going to round out our bottom tier before we jump up to our next tier. This video is sponsored by Underdog, whose pick'em contests are the best way to enjoy your football Sundays, primetime matchups, you name it. With Pick'em, you'll string together your lineup selecting player stats higher or lower on passing yards, sacks, tackles, receiving yards, whatever it might be, all the way down to fantasy points. If you hit on all your selections, you will get massive payouts off of what end up being pretty small level entries, $2, $3 to win $40, $50. This Thursday, we've got a kind of a measly matchup between the Giants and the reeling Cowboys. But a good opportunity if you're like me and passed on Malik Neighbors in your fantasy leagues to go get a little bit of Malik Neighbors stock. Take his higher on receptions or something like that. But right now, if you sign up using promo code TFG at Underdog, they will give you a bonus match up to $1,000, and you will support my channel in a big, big way. That is promo code TFG at Underdog. And now let's climb up to our next tier. So my next tier here is a new name for this tier. It is my soul-searching tier. Teams that have been a little bit of a disappointment maybe to this point. Teams that think they have potential within themselves, but they're going to have to dig deep and find their way out of this. And that could not describe the Jacksonville Jaguars any better. A complete disaster to start their season. I mean, Doug Peterson is a game or two away from being the first coach fired at this point. I don't think that's crazy at all. This team just has been flat from start to finish. The offense has had no plan. Trevor Lawrence is not playing well, but I don't think they're doing a good job of giving him answers to the test. And defensively, this team is horrible. Ryan Nielsen did a good job with that Falcons defense last year. Trying to step in another first-year job here, it has not been the same. I don't know what the final box score is going to read, but Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead, where are these guys at? Josh Allen had all day to throw on a D-line that they were hoping was going to be better in a more of a hand-in-the-dirt 4-2 style front. So it's just been a colossal disaster. They are trending towards truly being one of the absolute worst teams in football, but I'm still gonna, support the idea that Trevor Lawrence can play better and this team can be better than they've looked so far. But man, with Trevor sailing throws over the middle, getting picked, and throwing uncatchable back shoulders on critical downs, like at some point, it's just you're not going to be able to defend this guy anymore. I'm not even really defending him. I'm still projecting that he can play better moving forward. We'll find out, I guess. But then the Chicago Bears at 24, definitely a team doing some soul searching here. I mean, it wasn't like the ugliest loss ever, and Caleb did finally start to make some plays in this game, did make some mistakes as well. To me, it's like they're asking Caleb to be the hero right now. This was supposed to be a much more stable environment for a young quarterback coming in. They have no run game. DeAndre Swift averaging 1.8 yards per carry. They are not scheming guys open in the passing game, and Caleb's just having to do too much. And that's just not a healthy environment for any young quarterback. So I don't want to put too much on him, even if he is making some mistakes. I didn't really think he was all that bad this week, despite the one really ugly interception and an overthrow to Rome Odunze in a big spot in this game. I don't want to just excuse that either, I suppose. If there is a surprise to this point on why Caleb has struggled, I would say it is the inaccuracy. He's already missed more throws than I would have expected, certainly through 3 games, and that was not the billing on him. So he's got to start to hit some of these guys when he is getting open looks down the field, because it's not helping the rest of this stuff get better. And of course, the offensive line been struggling there. Defense doing their thing there in Chicago, though. They're going to be in a lot of these games because of how good they are on that side of the ball. But then the LA Chargers at number 23. This was really their first game of the season after an extended exhibition preseason, getting their first 2 games against the Raiders and the Panthers. And they were tough. They hung in there, kind of as you would hope to see from this Harbaugh regime. But honestly, them falling here is about other teams being more impressive, but also injuries starting to stack up. Rashawn Slater goes down in the second half of this game. Joe Alt is going to miss some time. We saw Trey Pipkins in there getting roasted, a reminder of why this team drafted the tackle in the top. And then Justin Herbert goes down in the second half of this game, re-aggravating this ankle injury he's dealing with. So they're kind of soul-searching their way through those injuries. I mean, Justin Herbert and that offensive line are really the identity of this team. And that's more of a knock than I was not impressed by them in Pittsburgh. It was kind of the tough, scrappy game that you expected before all those injuries started to pile up for them. But then at number 22, the Cleveland Browns, man, I regret ranking this team so high. And I still don't fully know what to do with this team, because I do think this defense is going to keep them in any individual game against really any opponent. This is, in my opinion, probably the most talented defense in the league. But the problem is they're not allowed to play like that because they're constantly on the field. And this locker room, this culture, it does not feel right now. And how can you not point the finger at Deshaun Watson? Everybody in that building knows this guy is a fraud. I don't think he's putting in the time, the preparation that other people in that building are. He is not the guy they traded for. He's got another lawsuit hanging over this. I think everybody in that building knows there's another quarterback in the building that would give them a better chance to win, but because of ownership's commitment to this player, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And I think that just wears down on a team, especially a team that needs to win with their defense. And I mean, dude, Watson was putrid in this game. And do I feel bad for him? No, I think he's a garbage human, but he's also a garbage quarterback right now. Like I said, he just does not feel prepared. He's holding on the ball forever. There's no anticipation. His accuracy is shot. Even when he does make a good read, half the time he's sailing it over the receiver's head or spraying it into the dirt. But he's leaving his offensive line out to dry. He's taking horrible sacks. And it's even in these big situations now in multiple games, third, fourth downs, he's afraid to put the ball up. What? Because he's afraid people are going to think he's bad because he throws an interception? At least give your team a chance. What a freaking shift from Joe Flacco, who was out there playing for his team with nothing to lose. It's ugly, man. And a loss at home to the Giants, man. What a waste of roster talent this is. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts at number 21. They pick up their first win on the season, though It's kind of the opposite of week one, where week one they lost a game, but Richardson played great. Here they win this game, but Anthony Richardson now for 2 weeks in a row doesn't look so good. So that's kind of hanging over the Colts' heads and why they're in this soul-searching tier. But as they showed in this game against the Bears, as Richardson continued to make mistakes, they were like, you know what? Let's just, buckle up, run the ball, and seal this game away. And that's exactly what they did. They're going to be able to win games with that formula, but until they feel better about their ability to throw the ball consistently, this team does deserve to be ranked in the bottom half of the league. And then our last team in the soul-searching tier is the Atlanta Falcons. Tough to know necessarily what to do with them because they were competitive against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And if they get the call in the end zone at the end, maybe they win that game. But you can't also put yourself in a position where you've only scored 15 points or whatever it was and are depending on the call to happen, right? So it's tough to dissect it entirely, but when you look at their first 3 weeks, like they just have not had it together offensively. And if Bijan's not cooking, they're kind of out of answers. So I am impressed by the toughness of this defense to keep them around in these games, but I think soul searching absolutely applies to the Falcons as they're trying to figure out what the hell is going to work here with really this new collection of players offensively with the new quarterback, first-time play caller at coordinator. A lot to figure out in Atlanta. Then our next tier, I think, is a really fun tier. All four teams here are very similar in my mind, and this is the who needs a defense anyway tier. Some of the most fun teams to watch on a week-to-week basis right now because they're high-scoring affairs with really good quarterbacks. And that's going to start with the Bengals. Time to tank them, man. Like, we're going to get to Washington very soon here, and in all due respect to Washington, but you dropped to 0-3 with a primetime loss in your own building to the Washington Commanders. Like, it is full-on panic mode for the Bengals. This defense, I thought their issues from last year were something that Lou Anarumo was going to be able to clean up because it was so just pursuit and missed tackle and gap discipline related. No, they can't tackle. They can't cover anything. It's been just awful on that defensive side of the ball. If there is a saving grace, it's that Joe Burrow and the offense are heating up. I mean, they get T. Higgins, Jamar Chase going this week. I don't think you completely write the Bengals off, and if they're able to bounce back still and maybe fix some things defensively, I don't think it's going to be the most surprising thing ever, but definitely don't love to see it, and they're 0-3 for a reason. They have losses now to, let's face it, my number 32 and number 31 ranked teams coming into the year, both losses at home. And even if a team like Washington has impressed, it is definitely time to panic for the Bengals. But then at number 18, this is where I have Washington. Wow. This is looking like the take of mine that is going to be just completely wrong from where I was at on this team heading into the year. I thought this team was going to stink. I thought Jayden Daniels was going to struggle. He's playing above the level I thought he would as a rookie. The processing, the ability to attack the middle of the field, his ability to take care of the football, like he's been a surgeon out here. One of the main things he hadn't done in the first 2 weeks too was connect on the deep ball. He does that multiple times in this game, gets Terry McLaurin going. Like the Bengals had no answers for good reason. Like he was making the most of clean pockets, picking them apart with his arm, and then using his legs when he needed to. Just such an overwhelmingly impressive night from Jayden Daniels. Probably one of the best quarterback performances you will see this entire season. So a plus 10 for Washington. And I just can't wait to see where this goes, man. Because if Jayden keeps playing at least something like that, like this team could have one of these sort of like miracle playoff types of years. He really has been that impressive. It's kind of just him, though, right? Like, I don't trust this defense one bit, and that's why they kind of end up in this tier. Overall, though, I can't remember a night I mean, you got to probably go back to RG3's rookie year since the last time you were this happy as a Washington fan. They definitely had the other name the last time you were this pumped as a fan of this team. And then at number 17, I debated, Arizona at 17, Washington at 18. If you wanted to flip them, that's totally fine. These teams are super, super similar, where you have, seriously, you go down the board, you got two teams with defensive head coaches whose defenses are garbage. You have two, athletic quarterbacks playing amazing this season. You have a number one wide receiver on both sides, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin. Pick your poison there. A couple of Ohio State guys, too. Like, wow. The main difference for me is I think I trust Arizona's play calling a little more, and Trey McBride is the best number 2 option of these teams. The record is the record. Arizona's losses are against Detroit and Buffalo. But tomatoes. The Cardinals, I think, are still really fun. I do think this was a really tough matchup this week for Arizona. I picked Detroit to cover the spread this week in my weekly picks on Patreon because I don't like playing Detroit after a loss, period. But also, that's just, you've got some of the best trench play in Detroit against some of the worst trench play in Arizona. That was going to be a tough week. Kyler did miss some throws in this game that could have kept them alive, but I don't look too much into this loss. I think Arizona's still super explosive, and they're actually climbing 2 spots in the rankings despite the loss. That's not because I feel better about Arizona. It's just I feel much worse about Atlanta and Cleveland, who are falling here. But if these are projecting power rankings into week 4, Arizona's had some really tough teams on the schedule. I think they're still going to be a really tough out and a super explosive team. They just kind of ran into the cards didn't line up for the Cards this week against Detroit. Then we got number 16, the LA Rams. What an impressive victory. And they weren't even impressive for the course of this game. It looks like they were going to lose pretty handedly to the Niners, but a credit to this defense kind of giving it their all. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Braden Fisk showing up in the stat sheet this week. Tre'Davious White, I thought, had a pretty good game. They kept this team around long enough for Matthew Stafford to lead a comeback. Special teams really helped them out too. Big punt return to put them in field position in the end. But just a gritty must-have win for the Rams this week to not fall to 0-3, get to 1-2, and they're trying to keep themselves afloat here as their, injury depleted team can hopefully recover. They have so many injuries, but most of them aren't season ending. So absolutely massive for them to pick up a dub this week. But then we are going to jump up a tier into the top 15, my thinking playoffs tier. Teams maybe lacking certain Super Bowl upside, but in a good spot to keep playing strong and put themselves in, good playoff positioning here. That's going to start with the Bucs. I was so impressed by them the first 2 weeks of the year, right? And maybe this was just a trap game coming home at 2-0 against an 0-2 football team that didn't want their season to end week 3 in Denver. After having to go to Detroit and bring it physically, it is not easy to go into Detroit and beat those guys, I promise you. But man, what a flat performance from Tampa. Just Baker, what happened to week 1 and week 2 Baker? Checking the ball down, no play extension, an ugly interception early in this game. Really, really just underwhelming performance there. I don't want to just tank their status. And again, I think they're in a position to bounce back, and you don't just forget about what happened the first couple of weeks, but definitely they need to come down after such a disappointing performance. Then the Seattle Seahawks at number 14. They jumped to 3-0 on the season. Talk about another team, by the way, whose season hasn't really started yet. 3 wins at this point against the Week 1 Bo Nix Broncos, the Patriots, and now Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle's Dolphins. Their season starts this week in Detroit. Now, I'm not saying they can't hang. I'm really impressed with what Mike McDonald has been able to bring to the table for this defense. Derek Hall is a dude now. Their second round pick last year was a wash as a rookie. He's been a really nice number 2 opposite of Boye Mafe. So they've got that defense flying around, and Geno is playing so well. Again, the level of competition doesn't move me, but they are 3-0, and a lot of the stuff we wanted to see from them is getting put into place with this new staff. So it's certainly not all bad. And you play who's on your schedule, and they've taken care of business. But this is the week where they can really kind of announce themselves as a playoff contender, or are they going to fold against the competition in Detroit? We'll find out. It's going to be a really big game coming up this weekend. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers at 13, taking care of business. God, this D-line is good, man. I mean, a credit to Cam Hayward. I thought that was crazy that they extended him at this age after such a bad year last year, but he looks healthy. He's an impact there. You got Keanu Benton. You got Alex Highsmith. You got TJ Watt. You got freaking... how did the league let the Steelers get another one of these guys in Nick Herbig? He's making plays for them. So that's their identity, man. They are going to just smash you in the face. They're going to run the ball. And how about Justin Fields? Feel like, he's getting comfortable here, man. He's making some big throws every single week, taking care of the football. Got to be impressed with how they've been able to kind of work with Justin and kickstart his development arc, if you will. Excited to see where that goes for Justin, too. I haven't been the biggest endorser of his game over the years, but he's finally given you some more like cerebral quarterbacking that is really encouraging to see there. Some, going through his reads sometimes too. So, yeah, I mean, just steadily heading in the right direction for Pittsburgh. Yet another team whose schedule's been kind of a cakewalk to this point. Atlanta, Denver, the Chargers, who lost half their team in the second half. Like, I don't think you want to just say this team is a top 8 Super Bowl contender or anything like that, but they are absolutely tough, and they're going to make you earn every blade of grass against them and not give you many blades of grass on their own end, if you will. But then kind of the opposite of the Steelers in a much more, I would say, finesse-y, talented team in the Dallas Cowboys at 12, who do drop 3 spots in the rankings this week. This is a tough team to rank because I do believe they will respond and play better as we project forward. But, man, they better pray that the other team can't run the ball, because the Saints and the Ravens have presented some really unique problems for them that they just cannot handle. And I'm disappointed that Mike Zimmer hasn't been able to fix this a little bit more. Their roster construction doesn't help. They build this team to be an athletic defense, to be a front runner with a lead that can rush the passer and not have to worry about their run defense. But if someone takes the fight to them and gets out early, they have a really hard time responding to that. I don't think Dak is a come-from-behind type of quarterback either. They certainly have had their issues on that side of the ball too. So I do think a tough team to know what to do with. I think they're in a good position to go take care of business and get things back in the right track with a win Thursday night against the Giants. Good opportunity with a short week. But if they lose that game, I would say that is where we're going to see a real drop from Dallas next week. But then at number 11, the New Orleans Saints. Now, it's not necessarily that I am walking away impressed by the Saints this week. This is more, they're moving up 1 actually after the loss because other teams had more disappointing losses. Dallas and Tampa Bay, I think deservedly falling behind New Orleans, especially because New Orleans steamrolled Dallas last week. So some Saints fans that think I hate you guys are going to be surprised to see them move up in a loss. You are definitely discouraged that the offense came to a screeching halt this week against the Eagles, but Dennis Allen's defense did bring it. Very much put them in position to win that game, but Jalen Hurts made enough plays down the stretch. Kind of a faulty coverage. Dallas Goedert gets loose, and you need more offensive production so that you're not putting yourself in a position to lose games late like that. So I'm not necessarily walking away more impressed by the Saints this week, but because of how things shook down with other teams, they actually move up a spot this week, and I still think they're tough and can get that mojo back. I think Philly's tougher than a lot of people have been giving them credit for. But I do have at number 10 the Green Bay Packers. As I said, when I lowered them big time when Jordan Love got hurt. People are going to be all in an uproar when they jump back up when Jordan Love comes back. So go ahead and complain about Green Bay getting a +8 here this week, but that is my process. Jordan Love returning this week and returning at a very exciting time. They go 2-0 without Jordan Love. I think this team learned a lot about themselves. Matt LaFleur unlocking the run game. Malik Willis looks like an excellent backup for this team, maybe even more someday. Like, so impressed with how he was able to step in on short notice and look like a pro, man. Like, where was that Malik Willis? Like, Tennessee watching from the other sideline. Like, who the hell is that guy? What do they got in the milk and cheese in Green Bay that makes these quarterbacks play well? Because that was not Malik Willis in Nashville, I can tell you that. But, just avoiding mistakes, hitting his throws, just really did a good job for this team. Drastically outplayed Will Levis in a victory. So I want to give Malik Willis his credit. But this is the Jordan Love show now moving forward. I love that they did not play him and still got the win. Like, how good are vibes in Green Bay right now? It felt like this team's season was over on the flight home from Brazil. Here they are, a huge game against my number 9 ranked Minnesota Vikings. Might as well reveal that there. And you got Jordan Love coming back now with a team that can run the ball, can play defense. Jaden Reed looks like a superstar. Let's go, man. Top 10 now for the Green Bay Packers, who had high hopes coming into the year. They can kind of resume and move forward there. But the Minnesota Vikings at 3-0, got to put them ahead of the pack for now. Obviously, a big game gonna determine this coming up on Sunday. But gosh, I really think Minnesota is a top, to play it safe, top 3 coached team in the league. Kevin O'Connell pushing all the right buttons for this offense, getting Sam Darnold to play. I mean, obviously better than he's ever played, but playing it at the level that I think you can open up the conversations of, like, look, if he plays this well the rest of the year, not only are the Vikings a playoff team, a serious threat in the playoffs, I mean, they just took down the Niners and the Texans. That is no joke. But not only that, like, the Vikings are going to be put in a spot where they can't just let that guy walk. Even if they did spend, the 10th pick in the draft on J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold's 27 years old, and it's like the Family Guy meme of, like, what's in the box? It could be a boat or it could be another box. It's not like J.J. McCarthy was like this lock franchise quarterback. If Sam Darnold's playing like this, you're going to have to bring him back, and things could get interesting there. But we are looking way too far ahead of ourselves here. This is a week-to-week thing for the Vikings with Sam Darnold. They're just hoping he can continue to build off of these performances. But, man, his ball placement, he's playing on time. He's extending plays when he needs to. And mostly avoiding mistakes. He's still got a play or two every game that kind of reminds you of the old Sam Darnold. That's scary a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of credit goes back to what we said about O'Connell there. Justin Jefferson as well is just so good. But defensively, man, Brian Flores, this is such a gift for the Vikings. I've said that before, but to just come out and outclass 2 play callers that we think the world of. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan last week, but Bobby Slowick and the Texans, they had no answers to the blitzes this week. It was funny, week 1 against the Giants, Flores kind of cooled back on the blitzing a little bit when he was so nuts with it last year. But against the Niners, against the Texans, he said, nope, I'm going to blitz more than anybody in the league by far. He blitzed almost 50% of their snaps, 25 out of 60 plays. And what's even more impressive maybe are the plays where they don't blitz, where the Texans and the Niners last week are anticipating the blitz. They keep 7 guys in to protect, and then Minnesota's got 7-on-3 in coverage on the back end, yet Flores is still running stunts in games to spring those guys loose up front. Not to mention Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, they're winning their pass rush reps. How fun are the Vikings this year, getting into the top 10 here as we head into week 4. But not quite cracking my top tier. I do still think these top 8 teams have a certain roster standard and a certain next level up in terms of Super Bowl hopes. Not that other teams can't continue to climb and get their way into this, but I am going to start with the San Francisco 49ers here. Tough team to rank with these injuries, right? not just no Debo, Christian McCaffrey. Like, yes, George Kittle wasn't available. They need those guys. Ayuk is exciting and all that, but you can feel the lack of, all these pieces mean so much to the offense for what they do. Debo being that easy button guy, the run after catch guy. You just saw a complete disappearance of the easy throws for Purdy that keep them ahead of the chains. No Kittle with the run blocking not being as good. Him being able to make those clutch plays when they need that option. So you're missing that offensively, but now on defense, a big injury here. Armstead, a big injury here. Javon Hargrave done for the year. He was the other guy that was going to be winning one-on-ones for this defensive line. Now teams can really shift towards Bosa. That's a huge hit. That's the biggest reason I think you're seeing the -6 here, because I do think they get Debo back, they get McCaffrey back, and we'll be just fine offensively. But this Niners pass rush really is the identity of that defense. They already lost Armstead in the offseason. Now you double dip the losses, and Javon Kinla's not there, who did play well for them last year. I know they brought in Malik Collins, who's playing all right, but that's just not the same as having Hargrave in there. So, yeah, concerned about the Niners, man. We know when they're healthy, as we saw week 1, they're world beaters. But that has very quickly fallen off, and you start to peel off some of the superstars here. They're just a much more normal team. So they're a tough team to rank right now. Let's talk about my number 7 ranked team, the Baltimore Ravens. Getting a +1 here, man. They take care of business against the Dallas Cowboys. Finally, a cohesive game plan that made sense for the Ravens, right? They looked at their opponent and said, hey, we got Lamar, we got Derrick Henry, and we're going against a team that can't stop the run to save their lives. You've got 2 Hall of Fame talents in the backfield and a nasty ability to get into 12-13 personnel. So you bring out Charlie Kolar breaks out a little bit in this game. My dude, shout out Charlie Kolar. But Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, 32 snaps for Patrick Ricard as well. 45 rushing attempts to 15 passing attempts. This is it, Baltimore. I know you want Lamar to be the spread passing pro reads quarterback. We know we can do that, but that's not how this team is constructed. This team is frankly constructed for a Greg Roman offense. That's not a Lamar slander. That's more like, hey, the front office put them in this position, so lean into it. That should be their go-to button. And if it's not working, then Lamar can go drop back and be superhero. But you don't need him to do that. We'll see if they stick with it, but it is great to see them figure out their identity, because I feel like they have had an identity crisis to start the season. So they're back on track. And then the New York Jets at number 6. You got to kind of rewind the clock a little bit and see through these recent QB performances, Jayden Daniels, Josh Allen, Andy Dalton. And remember, that Aaron Rodgers guy, he had an MVP type of night himself on Thursday night. He really did, man. And just so encouraging for the New York Jets, because the first 2 weeks, he wasn't moving, man. He was playing like a quarterback that was in control. He looked good, I think. You were still encouraged by how he played, but it wasn't explosive. It wasn't enough that you felt like he was going to be a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. You were seeing a lot of third down, check downs, or kind of rolling up, taking sacks. Just not a lot of play extension. Avoiding mistakes, trusting the defense, and making enough throws to win these games tight. Well, that all changed at the snap of a finger, seemingly, where Thursday night, Aaron is out there trusting that ankle, popping around in the pocket, making throws on the move, taking some of those third downs in the first few weeks of the season were punts, taking those and turning those into huge drives, making countless throws on the run in this game, frankly. He was better on the run in this game than he was from the pocket, but just the complete command as well. Not that he wasn't making throws from the pocket. Getting the ball out, protecting himself. The offensive line's playing great. Really just looking like a best case scenario for Jets fans. And the defense has played better the last couple of weeks. I do trust Saleh to get that unit to play well. They do still have the best secondary in the league, in my opinion. We'll see how the Hassan Reddick situation plays out. I mean, at some point, if this team's winning games, they're fining him millions of dollars every week. Like, dude, this is not a smart financial decision for Hassan Reddick. That trade deadline's not getting any further away, so if they could convince him to come back, all right, this team can really start to raise the bar. But definitely good vibes for the New York Jets this week. They got to be feeling good having a quarterback playing like this. But then at number 5, another team that is difficult to know quite what to think of right now. The Houston Texans, a really ugly loss in Minnesota. No way around it. Just did not have answers for Brian Flores' blitz and just made a bunch of big mistakes, big penalties in this game especially. I really liked what I saw from the Texans the first 2 weeks. I think this team is loaded. I do think they're well coached, even if they got out-coached against Brian Flores. I am going to lower them too. Knock them a little bit, put some other teams ahead of them here. But I'm also willing to chalk it up as a bad day at the office and believe in how well Stroud is playing. Because even in an ugly game for the team, it's not like Stroud really played bad. Still made some throws. I think it was more just a case of like the offense didn't have the answers in this one. But the caution lights are on for Houston, and they gotta kind of play well this week to sustain a top 5 ranking. Because I do think, especially in the case of the Jets and the Ravens, you can make a strong case they maybe should jump Houston after what they did in the most recent week. But the Philadelphia Eagles are going to keep the number 4 spot here, taking care of business in a game where they didn't have A.J. Brown. Not the most dynamic win, and they were damn close to losing this game against New Orleans as well. But I do think it was a big win for them. Number 1, to kind of get that monkey off their back. Everybody on ESPN and networks was saying, this culture's a mess. They can't win games late, blah, blah, blah. Well, they did. They bunkered down, did everything they needed to seal this game in the end. And maybe even bigger than that, you had the worst rush defense per attempt for the Eagles heading into this game. They were getting gashed on the ground for the first couple of weeks. Going against the Saints, who were world beaters in the trenches with their run game. And you're able to walk away from this saying, all right, Vic Fangio still has it a little bit. He was able to watch the tape and slow down what Kubiak and company were doing there. So that's especially encouraging. Offensively, it was going to be a tough battle. This team has given Jalen Hurts fits, and he had to do it without A.J. Brown. Made enough plays to win in the end, but he's going to have to be better, and this offense is going to have to be better. But hey, it's nice to have Saquon Barkley to break off 70-yard touchdowns as well when you need it. A different style of victory for the Eagles, but I think that's good news for them to find different ways to win and show that maybe they are a little bit better coached than the networks were complaining about this week. But then the Detroit Lions at number 3, they are going to get a +2 here. Mainly just because I think they were more impressive than the Texans and the Eagles this week, but definitely responding well. Really, it is this Lions defense that is so encouraging to me. They've had some tough opponents, the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals are a very good offense in Arizona, and they've been holding teams to. I'm just doing the math off the top of my head. It's probably like 16 points a game right now. They haven't actually gotten off to the best start offensively. Jared Goff is not really playing well. This was his best game, but even within this game, he had an ugly interception. Laporta hasn't been healthy for them. It just, they haven't been that top 3 offense that they were last year, but hey, I still have the utmost confidence in this group to get things rolling there. So definitely, Detroit back on track here after a big win in Arizona. Should be a really fun game next Monday night, right, against the Seahawks. Another doubleheader. But then at number 2, this might turn some heads. I am going to lower the Kansas City Chiefs here. I know. They're 3-0. They're the defending champs. All they do is find ways to win games. This is much more of a compliment to the Buffalo Bills. And I know people are going to laugh because the Bills, when they play the Chiefs, have yet to kind of get over that hump. But Man, the Chiefs are like scraping by every single week, playing with fire. And I know it's not how the NFL works, but if you change 3 plays, this team is 0-3. Now, Chiefs fans will hate to hear that, but we're talking about a team that ranks number 2. And I'm not some Chiefs hater by any stretch of the imagination, right? But it's not a perfect football team. I don't think they've been particularly explosive offensively. Mahomes, to me, has really not been sharp. He frankly looks worse than he ever has this year. Now, is he going to turn it around? Yes, absolutely. But he's been putting the ball in harm's way and certainly not lighting teams up through the air. He's, again, just kind of making enough plays to do what they need to win. And frankly, this is more of a defensive-oriented team right now with Spags kind of having to work his magic every week. So they rank number 2. They're undefeated. The Chiefs will be absolutely just fine and could easily win another Super Bowl this year. But I am going to put the Buffalo Bills at number 1. And I said the Commanders might be my worst take heading into the year. The Bills actually might be even worse than that. Because at least with the Commanders, it's like, well, yeah, Jayden Daniels is surprising a lot of people. The Bills, like, I made the decision to bet against Josh Allen, and that is my fault. But even then, this version of Josh Allen is insane. Insane. Not going to open up, is he better than Mahomes conversations. But I just don't know how you stop the most physically talented quarterback in the history of the NFL. I have said that before. I've said it year after year after year. I will hold that point. Josh Allen, the combination of arm strength, speed, acceleration, size, the most physically gifted quarterback in the history of the league, now playing the position at the mental capacity you could only dream of. And you've seen the year to year to year to year growth from Allen. But he is kind of playing a God mode right now. And the Bills have constructed this offense in a way that he has to be a methodical, concise, surgical decision maker. All these slot options, short throws. It sounds like they're making things easier on Josh Allen. It's the total opposite. He has to make a lot of hard, quick decisions. And this whole thing would not work if he wasn't seeing the field and playing with the speed with his mind that he is at right now. And he has not, through 3 games, thrown one pass. Not one pass in harm's way. That is the most incredible thing of this Bills start to the season. Then you can talk about what he brings to the table in the run game, how he opens things up for James Cook with the threat of his legs, and how every week he's making just a couple hero plays when they need it, but they're reining it in. And I just love it. And hey, dude, that defense was menacing. Credit there to, I didn't really give them a ton of credit for the Dolphins game. I thought that was just Tua kind of playing like crap. This game, they took it to the Jags. Von Miller making plays. Christian Benford looks like a lockdown corner. Like, they are stepping up. And hey, Sean McDermott, credit to him as well. I have not been the biggest McDermott guy, but he does have that defense playing excellent in Buffalo. So as we head into week 4, I just couldn't honestly sit here and tell you that there's a better team in the league right now than the Buffalo Bills. Could that change? Yes. Could I end up regretting ever doing this and the Chiefs just screw us all again? Yes, absolutely. But I don't even think there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with this. Even rational Chiefs fans, I think, will say, yeah, I mean, they look unstoppable right now. An absolute buzzsaw. And Josh Allen is on a fast track to winning the MVP award right now. Take your victory laps, Buffalo. I know I certainly doubted you. Y'all look awesome. All right. That's going to do it for the Week 4 Power Rankings show. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please do hit that like button on the way out. Again, subscribe, check out the podcast, all that. Appreciate you guys. Let me know in the comments where I went wrong, where I went right this week. And we'll see you all soon. Peace out.